Hi everyone, I'm Dana and welcome back to Inverter Always. So if you guys have been following along with the channel, watching the videos, you guys have probably seen this controller show up a time or two, and you might be wondering what in the heck this controller is, how does it work, more importantly, if you stumble across this controller, how do you program it and how do you use it? You guys are in luck because today is the first video in a 9-video series where we're going to be breaking down and talking about this Daikin Intelligent Touch Manager, which is a mouthful, so typically we just refer to it as the ITM, or Daikin's central controller. You guys, if you enjoyed today's video, please click the like button below, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. All right, we have a lot of content to get through, so let's jump right in. Now, you guys, I'm going to be working very hard over the weekend trying to record and edit all 9 of the videos in this series because for the holiday season, I'm going to be releasing the entire series all at once, exclusively as an early access for channel members. If you guys are not already channel members and you find the content on my channel helpful in your lives, then one of the best ways to support the channel is by becoming a channel member. It's that join button that shows up right next to the subscribe button on my main channel page. There are 4 different membership tiers to choose from, and this series is going to be the first series where I'm going to release it to all channel members. So any of the 4 options that you choose from, you're going to get exclusive access to this entire series. Now, if you don't want to become a channel member yet, that's totally fine, no problem. Starting January 2022, I'm still going to be releasing each episode on the normal Friday release date. So you guys, if you want to see everything all at once and you want to support the channel, join today and become a member. Our latest channel member is Clint. Clint, thank you so much for your membership, man. I really appreciate it. It helps me. There's a lot of effort and time that goes into making these videos. So in today's video, you guys, I'm going to be giving you a breakdown on the typical uses and applications for the ITM central controller. I'm also going to be going through and showing you how to get it installed, wired, powered, and then the big focus of today's video is going to be getting the correct software version installed on the ITM. Now, quick little disclaimer, as you guys are aware, this is not a training. This is not a factory authorized class by any means. I'm just a guy on YouTube who's sharing my experience working in the industry for over a decade on VRF technology with you guys. And my goal here is to just share what I've learned over the years to help make your guys' lives a little bit easier, to help your jobs go a little bit smoother. As far as this series goes, most of what we're going to be able to do is going to be done on the computer through a software program that I use pretty much on every job to pre-program all of my ITMs. You can actually get this software from Daikin or from your local distributor or your local rep, depending on if you're a contractor or somebody who works at a distributor or a rep firm. You can get that software from Daikin. You do have to have a certain level of training before you can access that software, but once you get that software, it will save you a ton of time during the programming process. We are going to be using pretty much in every video moving forward that software. The reason is, even though I could be programming everything directly on the ITM here, you guys will notice that the ITM screen is cracked. The ITM that I got from a contractor, this was basically a bad ITM, and I thought it was just a cracked screen, but unfortunately, the screen doesn't work at all. So I actually recorded this video earlier and powered it up and was ready to show you guys everything directly on here, but unfortunately, nothing lit up on the screen. So that's okay because we're going to be doing most of everything on the computer anyways. The software you'll see looks exactly like what it would look like on the screen here. We are going to be using the ITM in today's video though, so I can show you all the connections, what you need, what you don't need, and where they're all located. So with the exception of the cracked screen, we'll be able to use everything else for the demonstration purposes, and then we'll go to the software once it's necessary. One of the most common questions I get from contractors, especially during the design and the budget phases of a project, is, do I need an ITM? And I guess the easy answer really comes down to, what are you going to use the ITM for, and how many indoor units do you have? On a lot of smaller projects where you only have a few indoor units, 5, 6, 7, a handful on one system, an ITM may not always be worth the purchase price. It is a few $1,000s after all, and if you're just going to be using it so that you can schedule all of your indoor units from one location, then maybe it's not the best solution for you because 2 out of the 3 thermostat options have scheduling function built into them. We've done a series on the nav controller. I'll put a card in the corner for that video now, where we go through how to use a nav controller, and scheduling capabilities is right there in the main menu. Same thing with the Daikin 1 Plus. It also has scheduling capabilities, and if you do have a Madoka controller, it does not have scheduling capabilities, but you can add a Wi-Fi adapter, which does. So again, if you only have 5, 6, 7 handful of units, maybe the ITM isn't for you. However, there's a ton of features the ITM gives you in addition to just scheduling. For example, I can have remote access. I can have power proportional distribution, tenant billing. So if I have a building full of VRV equipment, a bunch of condo or apartment people, and I want to bill them for the actual usage that their indoor units take from the condensers, then I can have that software built into the ITM. I maybe want to monitor all the performance of my equipment. If there's ever an issue, this is good for the contractors who have service departments, and after you install a VRV system, you have a service contract or a maintenance contract. If there's ever a problem, I want to minimize the amount of time that it takes me to resolve that problem. Time is money, and we've talked about that many times on this channel. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to basically program something called the AirNet Monitoring Tool, or DNet, onto the ITM, and it's going to monitor all the points. I also have trend logs, so I can actually export 5 days of operational data. It's very, very handy, because then I can go back and see what was the system doing right before it failed, instead of plugging in, running the equipment all day or for multiple days, trying to replicate the problem that caused the equipment failure in the first place. So just depending on what you're going to use this for. Of course, if you have BACnet, if you have a BMS, some sort of a building management solution on the building, Honeywell or other, then the ITM can send all the Daikin points to the front end for control. So if there's a lot of indoor units, if you need one of these special features, then the ITM is a really good solution for you. Otherwise, if I'm just going to use it for a schedule, probably not for you. All right, you guys, so when you're ready to install the ITM and you take it out of the box, you're going to notice that there are 2 different brackets. And basically, you have 2 different options to mount the ITM. The first option is if you're going to flush mount it, you're going to put the back components of the ITM inside the wall. There is a bracket for that. So that's this bracket. Nice, kind of a big, beefy bracket. It's got a hole in the bottom for you to run all the cords up through. If you're not going to be doing that, you don't have a hole in the wall big enough for the ITM to fit through, maybe just a little hole for all your cables, then you're going to be surface mounting the ITM. And in that case, you're going to need this bracket. It's more of the flat bracket. It's got these little pins here on the side. Basically, you just snap the ITM onto this, and then the entire ITM is going to be surface mounted to the wall. So now let's go ahead and let's take a look at the buttons, the connections, and pretty much everything you're going to need to do to get the ITM wired up and ready for power. We're going to go ahead, we're going to go to the top view here, make sure you guys can see everything nice and easily. The first thing I'm going to show you guys is actually on the back of the ITM. So we're going to flip this over. You're going to notice that there's a nice little cover here, 2 little screws. You need to undo these screws and remove the back cover. Make sure you don't lose the screws. The screws are very, very small. I will show you just how small these little screws are, and they get lost all the time. The ITM does not come with replacement screws, so make sure you don't lose those screws. Okay, so when you're ready to wire everything up, the first thing you're going to need to wire up is your F1, F2. That's your communication wire, and this F1, F2 communication wire is going to be ran to your condensers, to your outdoor units, F1, F2 out daisy chain. You guys should have a wiring schematic to follow, which tells you where to land this wire, so there should not be much confusion here. Your power for the ITM is going to be 24 volts. Be very careful here. It is not 120, it is not 208, 230, it is 24 volts. So you need to provide a 24 volt power supply. The one additional connection that you may need, I usually use this connection, and I'll explain more why later, but this is your LAN connection. You can see it's just an Ethernet cable that you're going to plug in, and that's so you can have the ITM connected to the local network and access all the information from a computer, so you maybe don't need to walk into the mechanical room or the IT room to access this directly. It's also used for remote access, which I like to set up if the job application allows it. It's not super common, but every now and then we will add what's called a WAGO. A WAGO is basically just an input-output module, allows us to control third-party devices. Let's say I have an ERV that's not a Daikin ERV, and I need to turn it on and turn it off. Well, I can use this little blue connector here, and I can actually run this to my Wago, and my Wago is going to be my input-output module. And later in the series, I'm going to show you how to program that with interlocks and schedules, so that way the ITM can control those third-party devices. In the event that you have a lot of indoor units, you're going to have a little connection here that says D plus and D minus, and that is your D3net plus adapter. It also is going to plug in on this blue connector. It's the last 2 pins on this blue connector, and that is so that I can expand the number of indoor units that I have on this controller. One of the cool advantages about having this controller is I can have over 1,000 indoor units, and I can control them all just from this one touchscreen. I don't need another touchscreen. A lot of the other manufacturers are limited in the number of indoor units that they can have before you have to add a whole nother touchscreen. With Daikin, after you add a certain number of indoor units, all you need to add is this little expansion card and wire it to here, and you're still going to access everything from this one controller. So it's very, very nifty. So that is 99% of what you're going to need. You're going to need power, communication, your Ethernet, and then possibly Wago, possibly a D3 plus adapter, so this blue connector here. You're never going to use line, you're never going to use phone, we don't use reserve, so these 3 you can just forget about. At least in my market, I've never had to use any of these. And the only other thing that might come up are these orange connectors here. The application for them is very, very niche. So there are basically 4 inputs, just digital input contact closures built into the ITM. DI1 is going to be dedicated for emergency shutdown. So if I've got an alarm panel and I want to force everything on this ITM off, I would land a set of wires on DI1. DI2, 3, and 4 are basically for third-party connections. So what's most common, it's not common, it's actually very rare that we use this, but when we use it, the most common thing we would use is called PPD, Power Proportional Distribution. What that means is tenant billing. If I have a watt-hour meter with a pulse input signal, I can plug it into DI2, 3, or 4 and monitor the amount of power consumption that the condensers use, and then properly distribute that to all the indoor units based on their actual consumption. And I can do all that from the ITM. So that's very, very cool. Although we don't use it extremely often, it is somewhat more of a rare feature that we add. It is something that you can add. So that's everything on the back of this controller that you're going to need. We're going to go ahead, we're going to flip this to the front, because the front of this controller does have some hidden things. You can see this little slider slides down. I've got 2 more little panels that I need to unscrew. These screws are even smaller than the first couple of screws we pulled out. These are the ones that almost always get lost. I mean, you can see how tiny those screws are. So please don't lose the screws. So the first thing you need to make sure you do on every ITM is you need to set the battery backup switch to the on position. Now, because I was messing with this earlier, I've already set it to the on position, but out of the box, it comes off. If you don't have this set to the on position and you power it up, you're going to get an alarm, a little notification that says you need to turn on the battery backup, and this is where it's located. So go ahead and turn that on and then reboot the ITM. You can just go ahead and click the reset button here, or you can just power cycle it. That's fine as well. Then you need to also make sure, depending on your application, that the proper switch for master or slave is set. It's set for master by default, and that's mostly because the ITM is typically the master controller. This is your centralized controller. This is the boss of all the equipment on the job site, all the indoor units across all the systems. In the event that you have a backnet system, you know, you're going to do backnet server, you're going to send all the points to a front end. Maybe it's a Honeywell, maybe it's a different brand, it doesn't matter, but that becomes now the boss. So in that case, you would flip this to slave. This is no longer the boss. This is just monitoring and sending all the points to the front end. So that is slave and master. Over here, this little left panel, you can see it gives you another Ethernet connection. Now you can use this Ethernet connection if you want instead of the one on the back. But what I like to do is use the one on the back for the local network. I plug that in. That's for my remote access. I mean, that's my permanent Ethernet connection. The one on the front here is so if I need to plug in with my laptop or computer while I'm on a job site, I can do that. I can program, I can pull up some settings, I can make some changes. I can do it all from my computer's web browser. If you're going to use the LAN, the Ethernet connection on the front, then you need to make sure that you change the switch from the back position to the front position. Move it from right to left. When you're done, you need to make sure you flip that switch back to the back position. Otherwise, that back Ethernet connection is not going to trigger. The last thing on here is going to be your USB connector, and we're going to come back to this shortly when we upload software. When we upgrade the software, this pulls out 90 degrees. You can put in your flash drive, or there's a little tab on the side that also pops out that you can use if maybe you don't have any room to pull out this little tab 90 degrees. And that's basically it. The only other thing I'll let you know of is there is a little monitor button. All this does is turn the screen on and off. This is also going to be used in a little bit when we upload the software. To press the reset button, typically what I do is I just use a pen and I hold the pen down so that way this doesn't retract back in, and then I just hit that reset button. It fits perfectly. You could also use a paper clip if you want. So you guys, once you have the ITM installed and you're ready to power it up, one of the first things, or I should say one of the most important things that you need to do is make sure that you install or upgrade to the latest version of the ITM. At the time of this recording, the latest version is 2.10. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch over to the desktop here. I'm going to show you guys how to load the software onto your USB flash drive. And then we'll go through a demo here shortly at the end of the video where I show you how to actually upload that software to the ITM. Now, you guys, it's very important to note that there are two distinct versions, or I should say main versions of the ITM. The older version is 1 point something something, and the newer version's prefix is 2 point something something. Basically, if you have anything that's programmed already on a job site and your version is 1 point something something, if you upgrade to version 2 point something something, all that data is going to get erased. So it's extremely important that you do a backup so that you know how to reprogram the ITM, because if you upgrade from version 1 to version 2, you will have to reprogram that project's set of points. Now, if you already have an old project with version 1 point whatever, there's really no need to upgrade it at this point unless there's a specific feature part of version 2 that you really want, like trend logs or remote access or something like that. So it's really important that you just know you will have to reprogram all of your site data anytime you upgrade from version 1 to version 2. So you guys, I've got my desktop open. This is the version up tool and preset launcher. This is the package so that I can program the ITM on my computer and then upload all of that programming to the ITM for a specific job. What we're going to be focusing on in today's video is the version up tool. There are going to be 4 files that you're going to need to upgrade the software to the latest version. Now, it's extremely important, let me go ahead and come back to the center here, that when you guys are picking out USB memory sticks, that you pick out a very particular memory stick. Now, if you look in the installation instructions of the ITM, or if you go through any of the training materials that Daikin has available to you, or your local vendor, or your rep, you're going to see that there is a size range that you can use, and I think it's anywhere from 4 gigabytes all the way up to 32 gigabytes. However, depending on the upgrade that you're doing, so whether it's the actual version upgrade or you're trying to upload certain programs or layouts, there are layouts that you can do, the size of the USB seems to matter even more. So what I noticed over the years is my 4 gigabyte flash drives, my 8 gigabyte flash drives, and my 16 gigabyte flash drives would work sometimes, they wouldn't work other times. And so I experimented a little bit, eventually stumbled across these Kingston 32 gigabyte, their little data traveler, 32 gigabyte. Hopefully that focused okay, but they're just 32 gigabyte flash drives, and it doesn't matter what brand. What I've noticed is that pretty much every 32 gigabyte flash drive will work. The only time this has not worked is sometimes when you put files on your flash drives, they get formatted as NTFS files. You just reformat your flash drive, before you use it for the Daikin ITM to FAT32, and I'll show you how to do that here shortly back on the desktop. I basically carry around 2 or 3 of these. So I have one that's dedicated for my version upgrade software. That way I don't have to add and remove. And then I have another one that I'll typically use for all of my site programs. So I use this one, I just re-upload each of my different job sites to it. And that way when I go back to the ITM, I can plug in the version upgrade, do the upgrade, and then I can upload the actual job site data. It goes much quicker that way. Again, we talked about it a lot on this channel. Time is money, so I want to be as efficient as possible. That way I'm there for as little amount of time as possible. So you guys, we're going to go back to the desktop now. I'm going to show you how to get this software onto your USB stick. First thing we're going to do though is we're going to go find our USB drive. I've actually labeled mine ITM upgrade. That's how I know which USB is which. All you need to do is, first of all, click on it. You need to make sure that it's empty. You can see that this particular flash drive is not empty, and that's because I have the upgrade version already on it. For the sake of this video, I'm going to go ahead and delete everything on it. You always want to make sure you delete all the files on this flash drive, because if you have any other files on it, the ITM upgrade will not take successfully. Now, in the event that you're having an issue, there is a chance that your flash drive got formatted as an NTFS file. So you're going to go to your flash drive on your computer, you're going to right click, and then you're going to click on Format. When you click on Format, you can see here that it says File System NTFS. This is actually a perfect example of sometimes what can go wrong. You need to go ahead and you need to reformat your USB flash drive for FAT32. If it's not formatted for FAT32, the ITM will not accept it. Down here for volume label, this is where you can also rename your USB flash drive. You can see that's why, or where I've relabeled it as ITM upgrade. Go ahead and click on quick format and then hit start. It is going to say that during the format, it will erase everything on your flash drive. We've already deleted everything. That's okay. We're going to click on OK. It's going to go ahead. It's going to format. Everything is complete. We hit OK, and then we hit on close. So now we've completed the formatting of our flash drive. Now, when we go back to ITM upgrade, you'll see that if we go to format, it says FAT32. We're not going to actually reformat it again. That's just so that we can confirm that it did indeed get reformatted. And we're going to go ahead now and we're going to put those 4 files onto the USB flash drive. So back on the ITM folder that we were just looking at, we're going to click on the version up tool. Now, when you guys get the software from Daikin, you're not going to have test project here. This is something I've created for the series. This is something we'll talk about more in the next video. You're also not going to have an Excel spreadsheet that says as built sheet example. That's also something that I've created that I use on a regular basis. And we're going to talk about that in the next video as well. The only software you're going to have when you receive your software from Daikin or from your local vendor is the version up tool folder and the preset launcher folder. Go ahead and click on the version up tool folder, click on ITM, and you're going to have these 4 items. Make sure you select all 4 of these items. You can click on the top one, and then while holding shift, click on the bottom one. At this point, either hit Control C for copy or right click and then copy. After you've copied, now go back to your ITM upgrade flash drive. It's empty. You can then from here either hit Control V for paste or right click and then click left click on paste. And now everything is pasted to the flash drive. We're going to go ahead and eject. So close this window, go down to the bottom corner of your computer. You click on the little USB icon, and that is going to allow you to eject safely your ITM flash drive. Sometimes this will pop up and you'll see that it says this device is currently in use. And usually this is because you just closed your folder like we did here, and you need to wait for a little bit longer. Normally, if you go down and you do it a second time, then it will eject just like it did there. Once you guys have all the software loaded to the USB, the next step is going to be upload that software to the ITM. So what I'm going to do here, because we had that dead screen on the ITM in my office, I'm going to play back some previously recorded footage of us walking through step by step how to load that software. So here it is. You can program the ITM using a USB, but before you do anything, make sure the battery backup switch is set to the on position. Next, you want to update the ITM software version to the latest version, which right now is 2.10. To load the software, insert your USB drive, press and hold the monitor button down, and while holding the monitor button down, press the reset button with a pen or paper clip. Continue holding the monitor button down until the screen displays booting from USB, which at that time, go ahead and let go of the monitor button. It will take a few minutes to load, but will prompt you to calibrate the screen. Simply press in the indicated circles. The existing and new software version will be displayed on screen. Go ahead and press the OK button. It will take a few minutes for the version to install, but once it's complete, a message will display on screen directing you to reboot and remove the USB drive. Press the OK button to reboot and remove the USB drive. When the ITM reboots, you may proceed with programming the job site data, or at this point upload the pre-programmed job site data via a USB drive. The process for uploading the job site data is exactly the same as before. Insert a USB drive, and while holding the monitor button down, press the reset button. Continue holding the monitor button down until the screen displays booting from USB, which at that time, go ahead and let go of the monitor button. You'll again be prompted to calibrate the screen. Once complete, you will notice the existing and new version match, which is fine because we are just uploading job site data on the current version of software. Press OK to load the job site data, and once complete, it will prompt you to remove the USB drive and reboot. And as long as everything was done correctly, when the ITM reboots, it will take you to the main ITM screen with all the programmed units displayed. Once your software upgrade is complete, you guys, the ITM will take you back to the main screen, and at this point, you guys are ready to program the ITM. We're going to be going through the programming process in the next video, and then each video after that will continue to build off of the last, so stick around, you guys. This is going to be a great series with plenty of information to go through. If you guys enjoyed today's video, please click the like button below. It really helps out my channel. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. Usually content like this generates a lot of questions. So if you guys have any questions, if you guys have any issues upgrading the software on one of your job sites, let me know in the comments below. You guys, of course, members are going to get priority response to comments. It's one of the perks about becoming a member. I will respond to your comments first, but I will do my best to get to everybody's questions as always. So again, you guys, thank you for tuning in. I hope you all have an awesome day.